Imagine working 12-hour shifts in a hospital and then switching hats and building a 6-figure property business on the side. Sounds impossible, right? Well, welcome to a day in my life. If we haven't met before, my name's Uyiosa. I am a doctor in her mid-20s who is building a property business alongside her medical career. And whilst both aspects of my career have been super rewarding, at times it has been very chaotic. And in today's video, I wanted to share with you guys the systems, the productivity hacks, and the mindset. If there's one thing that I've learned trying to balance two demanding careers is that time is your most valuable asset. So for me, planning the week ahead has been revolutionary. And every Sunday, what I'll do is I'll have a look at my rota to see what my shift pattern is for the week, just in case I'm working a night shift or a 12 to 12 as opposed to the box standard 9 to 5. And then I will also sit down and look at the business tasks that need to be done ahead in the upcoming week and any personal priority, i.e. going to the gym, making time to see friends, etc. And then I will identify what I call the high priority task, and those high priority tasks I will allocate to a specific day. So if going to the gym is a high priority task for me, I will allocate it to day of the week to make sure that by the end of the week I have gone, because there was a day and there was a time allocated to it, which links nicely to what I call my golden rule. And my golden rule is, if there is a specific task that is super duper important, I will make sure that that task is done at the beginning of the week as opposed to the end of the week before I focus on little tasks, just to make sure that it's done, it's out the way, and things are progressing, and to also minimize any delays that could arise as a result of that task not being done. Then I take it a step further and I actually time block my days. And I break my day into 3 segments. I have my morning block, my afternoon block, and my evening block. And my morning block is all things me, myself, and I. It's the time that I typically use to pray, to go to the gym, or if I've had a really busy week, I will use that time to sleep in, because rest is super important. And my day blocks on a weekday is usually assigned to all things medicine. That's when I'm in the hospital, running around in A&E, or on the wards, living my best life as a doctor. And then my evening block typically relates to performing tasks related to my businesses. And I'll be honest, I don't do business stuff every single evening, just because working as a doctor is full in itself, and then trying to grow a business is also a full-time job, and it's important to look after your mental health. So I will do fun things. I'll meet up with my friends, I might schedule a FaceTime. And one thing that I've learned is, even with a packed schedule, you always have downtime. Commuting is an example of downtime. The random 10 minutes of free time that you have in a day because you have nothing to do is also an example of downtime. And I've learned that actually you can use your downtime to advantage by having a list of activities or tasks that you can do in there. So for me, typically, I will schedule calls in my downtime. I will use my downtime to scroll on social media or to reply back to any messages or any emails that have popped up in the day. The only reason why I'm able to allocate tasks to different days of the week is because at the very beginning of the year, I made a list of goals that I wanted to achieve by the end of the year. Not too many, just a handful. And I created these goals using the SMART framework. And if you've been on the productivity side of YouTube, then you've probably heard every Tom, Dick and Harry talk about the SMART framework, but it actually works. And the S in SMART stands for specific. It means setting goals that are not vague. A good example of this, when I speak to people and they're like, oh, it's the beginning of the year, I want to go to the gym. It's great that you want to go to the gym, but it needs to be specific. How many times a week do you want to go to the gym? Otherwise, it's really difficult to measure. It leads nicely to M, and M stands for measurable. And you want to be able to keep track and measure your progress. And you'll find that the more you do something, the more motivated you are to do it, because you suddenly start to gamify the process. The A stands for achievable. I'm all for being delulu, but there is a level of insight into your situation that you need to have to be able to be sure that you can achieve the goal that you set out for yourself. R stands for relevant. You want the goal to be aligned to the bigger picture of who you are, so that you're motivated. I don't want to sound so super philosophical about purpose, but if it links to your purpose or it links to your inner why, you'll be super encouraged and motivated without external beings, because you understand why that goal is important to you. And the T stands constrained for time. There needs to be a clear deadline as to when this goal needs to be achieved. Once I had used this SMART framework to create my goals, I then broke down the goals into smaller things that I could do throughout the year. And my mindset was, if I do these small things throughout the year, it will inevitably lead me to my desired outcome. Moving on to the next thing that has really helped me to combine my two hats into one is the 2-minute rule. You may not have heard of the 2-minute rule, but it's really simple. It has two elements to it. The first element is, if a task is going to take you less than 2 minutes to do, just do it. And if it's going to take you more than 2 minutes to do, then just commit 2 minutes to doing it. So I'll start off with a first start. It's really easy for us to undermine little tasks like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's going to take 2 seconds, I'll do it later. If we think about it, there's so many little tasks that pop up into our brains throughout the day, but because they're little, we will typically say, oh, I'll do it later. But if we think about how many of these tasks we chuck into the to-do later pile, it always means that our to-do list just gets bigger and bigger and bigger as opposed to smaller and smaller, and that causes stress. And then the second arm of the 2-minute rule is, if the task is going to take more than 2 minutes to do, just dedicate 2 minutes to doing and then allocate it to a different time. The reason why this works is because when you start working on something and you get into it, even if it takes more than 2 minutes to do, you probably won't stop doing it because you're like, oh, I'm doing it now, I might as well finish it. And the reason this works so well is by committing 2 minutes to it, we've overcome the mental barrier that was stopping us doing it in the first place. And again, tick box. That thing has now been done, so you don't need to worry about it. And again, you're not adding to your to-do list. Now, I'm going to be super honest with you guys. Although on paper, these things work, there are days where everything just goes to crap. And the reason I say that is, being a doctor, the days are completely unpredictable. Having worked in the healthcare industry for as long as I have, I'm able to kind of suss out how the days will go. And rather than beating myself up and saying, oh my goodness, I had 5 things to do when I got home, I give myself grace. And that is something that ambitious people who have drive, don't do enough of. They don't give themselves grace. And whenever those things have happened, I have actually applied 2 rules, identifying my one thing. And there is a book called The One Thing. I can't remember who it's by, but I will insert a picture onto the screen. The idea of the one thing is you identify which one thing, if done, will have the biggest impact on your goal. And I know it sounds counterintuitive doing one thing as opposed to 5 things, but it links nicely to the 80-20 rule. And the 80-20 rule basically tells us that actually 20% of our tasks lead to 80% of the outcomes that we see. So rather than focusing on doing loads of different things that won't move the needle very much, if you focus on the small percentage of things that will move the needle the most, you are less likely to burn yourself out, and B, you are ensuring that you make progress. I would highly recommend being clear with yourself what your one thing for the day is, in case your day just doesn't go as planned. And if you do feel like you haven't made progress, remember the 80-20 rule. And another thing that I would say has helped me balance both of these hats really well is accountability. I break down accountability into 2 areas. I have my personal accountability, so in other words, accountability to myself, and then I have accountability to other people. So the accountability to me tends to be sitting down at the end of the week and reflecting on my week and thinking about all of the things that I said to myself I was going to do, and looking at the things that I did do and expressing gratitude for the things that I did do, but also thinking about my even better ifs, like what could I have done better, what hindered me, or what things did I find challenging, and trying to come up with solutions to implement so that the following week can even be better. And then moving on to the second half, which is accountability to others, I have an accountability partner and I have mentors. With my mentors, they are expecting me to check in with them, to share how things are going. If I have any questions, they are a great resource. Just basically take their brain. And then in relation to my accountability partner, who may be watching this, I absolutely love her. She is as crazy and as audacious and as cool as me. We have 2 check-ins every quarter, and again, we are very open and honest about how things are going, how things are not going, and we share with each other different things that we have trialed in the past that may have worked that could be of benefit to the other person. So by having people who are expecting me to do something, it holds me accountable to doing what I've said. Guys, that brings me to the end of this video on how I'm able to balance being a medical doctor in my mid-20s who is building a property business. I would love to hear from you guys. What has been your biggest challenge in trying to balance your time? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!